Well, here we are, last video of the month. Thank goodness. Hey guys, Melinda here. Welcome to the very last Halloween and spooky themed video of the month. I am so glad it's finally over. Don't get me wrong, I've had so much fun and really enjoyed watching 30 horror movies this month and getting to partake in 2 spooky themed videos, but I'm so glad it's over now. Watching 30 horror movies in the time frame that I did really messed with me. I'm tired of feeling anxious and feeling my heart race and feeling uncomfortable and unsettled, and I'm just ready to watch some Disney. So we are finishing the month off by talking about 7 more horror movie reviews, and this will be the last of it. Still having issues with my lights, so it probably just dimmed, but I hopefully have enough lights on to keep the video going. So yes, talking about 7 final horror movie reviews today. I'm just ready to get a move on and start talking about some other stuff. So let's go ahead, jump right into the movie review. Today I am going to be talking about 1BR, I See You, I'm Just With You, The Lie, My Friend Dahmer, The Lodge, and Session 9. Alright, first I'm going to be talking about 1BR. So this is streaming for free on Netflix, and what this movie is about is this girl, she just moves to a new city, so she's on her own, she's moved away from her family, she's just ready for a clean start. So she is looking for an apartment. She finds one, but within moving there, she discovers that it is a very odd community and some interesting things happen. And I don't want to give too much details, but basically just the community that she moves into is a little crazy. I think that this was a very messed up story, in a good way. It was just crazy things that happened and the things that this girl has to go through. It was just mind-boggling. But such a brilliant idea that I have never seen this story before. And because of that, it was very interesting and very intriguing, and I was very interested to see where the story was gonna go because I wasn't quite sure. I wasn't disappointed, so there's that. It was very suspenseful. It was a very good story in its entirety, just a very good story. I very much loved the ending in this film. It was perfect the way that they ended it. I did say that this film was okay as a horror film. It wasn't amazing like some of the other films that I've seen, but it was still good. It was okay. So it's a decent film if you want just to have a little suspense and you want to help pass the time. I would recommend this film. And it's not scary. There's no jump scares whatsoever. It's purely thriller and suspense. That's pretty much all I have to say about that film. Moving on to the next film, I See You. This is streaming on Amazon Prime. Let me tell you, this film was incredible. This was a really good film. So I don't want to give away too much of what this film is actually about. Basically what it's about is that there's this family that lives in a house. Mom and dad are fighting. They're having a lot of issues, and so they're kind of separating, and they have a teenage son who is just like mad at both of them all the time because hormones. But some really weird things start happening around the house. You kind of think it's going to be paranormal, but at the same time it doesn't make sense that it's paranormal, but it's just like a constant guessing kind of film and a mystery all around. I loved it. The very first note that I have is that this movie is so visually stunning. I love the imagery and the shots and the cinematography, just all of it tied together. It just looks so beautiful. Like, I was kind of shocked at how beautifully shot this film was, considering it's a horror film, you know? When I was watching it, I really called back to Hereditary, which is also a really great horror film. It's not the same story, but this is what it closely made me resemble to. Just very good story, well written, visually stunning, just all around an amazing horror film. The use of the music in this film was spot on. It makes you so uncomfortable while watching it, and that is something that I personally love, when a film can have these outside elements tie in the entire film together to make you physically feel uncomfortable. It's doing its job. It's doing a great job. The script does a wonderful job at telling the story. It's very well paced, and it does an excellent job at slowly revealing the actual story. It's very suspenseful and mysterious, keeps your attention, keeps you on the edge of your seat the entire time. It constantly kept me guessing. I never knew what was going to happen. I could not predict it whatsoever. There are some major jaw-dropping moments and holy crap moments that I almost could not believe were a part of this story, but it was. It is so intense. Just all around so good. It was very good. And of course there is a plot twist ending. Was not expecting it whatsoever, and it was beautifully written in. And something that I also noted that I think is a really great thing is that I was constantly changing who I wanted to root for, like which character I was rooting for, which I think if you can do that in a horror film, you bounce around from the good guy to the bad guy, back to the good guy, back to the bad guy. That is such an incredible story because you never see that in a horror film. Probably in any film actually, but all around just very good film, very well written. Just everything about this film was incredible and amazing, and I highly, highly recommend this film. Alright, moving on to the next film, I'm Just With You. And I kid you not, that is the actual title, and I kind of hate that that's the title. Okay, so this is streaming on Hulu, and this is again part of the Into the Dark series that I was talking about in my last movie review. So I wanted to watch another one just to compare and contrast all of them. So this is also a Blumhouse production, and I was not a fan of this film at all. Like, it just did not feel like a Blumhouse kind of movie. It was kind of annoying and irritating throughout the entire film with the characters, the acting, the story, just all of it. It doesn't follow the same outlines as the other Into the Dark series, which I know is something that I was curious about, and I was able to tell based on this film. They do not follow the same outline, which is good because then they're all different and unique. This was a really weird story, and I noted that it felt like the writers wrote this when they were high or drunk, and you need to be either high or drunk to watch this film. It was like psychedelic. They had weird filters and colors and special effects, and it just, I don't know, it was off-putting, and I just wasn't a big fan of all of that. What this story is about is this guy is traveling out of town to go to a friend's wedding. He and his sister are gonna meet up at a hotel, and he picks just like this out of the blue rinky-dink motel called the Pink Motel. So he goes and he stays there, and just some really weird stuff starts to happen to him, to his sister when they were staying at this motel. It takes a really weird twist, and it's kind of all you need to know. So there is one thing that I am just not a fan of about this film. They make the main character a germaphobe. So he's constantly cleaning his hands and sanitizing his room and pulling out like a wet wipe to open doors. The only thing that kept coming to mind is, if he is such a germaphobe, why is he staying in this run-down rinky-dink motel, you know? It just, to me, that made no sense, and I just couldn't get past it. It did not make sense to me whatsoever. Going back to the weird filters and colors and special effects, I just felt it was unnecessary. Like, I think it should have been taken out of this film. It doesn't ruin the film, but it definitely does not add anything special to it. When you have something like that in a film, it should just be taken out. You don't need it at all. There was one thing that I did think about, especially with the Into the Dark series. I wonder if all of these films is centered around a holiday. So this film is about April Fool's Day. Down, which I talked about last week, was centered around Valentine's Day. And I know there's a Christmas movie, and I know there's a Halloween movie, so just something I thought was interesting is that they might all be centered around holidays, but I don't think I'm gonna go watch all of them to find out. It was just something that piqued my interest. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this film. It wasn't the best, didn't feel like a Blumhouse production, and I probably don't recommend this one to you guys. Moving on to the next film, The Lie. So this movie is about a teenage girl pushes her best friend into a river and she disappears. Her parents believe that her friend probably died because they were pretty high up on the ground and she was nowhere to be found, so they just assume that she was dead. And the entire film, they are trying to cover up the fact that their daughter murdered her best friend. Within that, hence the lie, they keep lying to cover it up, and the lie just gets bigger and bigger and more complicated. No spoilers, but that's what the general consensus of the film is about. I was very surprised at how quickly the action started. By that I mean within 10 minutes of the film is when the daughter pushes her best friend into the river. I was kind of shocked. I almost thought we would see like a little bit of a build-up and show their relationship as friends, but we didn't see any of that. It just jumped right into it, and the whole film is about creating the lie for their daughter. I was surprised at how quickly we jumped right into the action. I wrote that the daughter is such a spoiled brat and thinks that she can get away with everything, that if I was a parent, I personally probably would have turned her in and said, oh, it was an accident, but she killed her best friend. She was just so frustrating. She was making me very angry, and I would have turned her in if I was a parent, honestly, because she was such a spoiled brat about it. This is such a very twisted and crazy story, and it takes a plot twist and turn that I just was not expecting, and just makes the film that much better. I really was not expecting the ending, and it stopped me in my tracks. I was so surprised at what happened. I almost thought that it was a dream of how crazy the ending is, but it wasn't. It was real. Oh my gosh, it was real. And I absolutely love the ending. They leave it with the audience asking questions, but I think this was a great ending. Like, you want to keep that mystery alive and wondering what's going to happen. I know I personally would love to have seen more, but I'm still happy with how they ended it, and I'm pleased. It was a good story all around, and it was very well written, and I think I would probably recommend this film as well. More suspense thriller than like a scary horror, so I do recommend this film. It's also kind of more of like a mystery kind of film too, so there's that. I do recommend this one. Moving on to the next film, My Friend Dahmer. This is streaming on Hulu and Amazon Prime. What this film is about is the story of Jeffrey Dahmer, the serial killer who was a cannibal and killed young boys. This was based on a true story of Jeffrey Dahmer's high school's closest friend. He created a graphic novel based on what happened right before Jeffrey Dahmer started his killings, and so that's what this story is about, is his high school experience, the two of them as kind of friends, and just seeing the crazy path that led Jeffrey Dahmer to become who he was. This film is classified as a horror, but I do not think it was a horror whatsoever. I would say that it was a drama and probably more towards the thriller end. It was a very interesting story though. It was very creepy and eerie and mysterious. Ross Lynch does such a great job. He is such an amazing actor in this film. Because it is based on a true story, I do wonder how much of it actually is true and how much was just kind of played up or dramatized for the film. I thought it was very interesting how we saw his build up in his high school years. I actually would have almost loved to see maybe just a little bit after that. Like, I would love to see him actually start killing people, you know? I would have just loved to see that start as well and possibly end the film with that, but they really just focused on his high school years and how crazy and weird he was then, so yeah, that's pretty much it. I just said that I wish I could have seen more of that story. We would have had more action. I think it was a pretty good story. It's very slow moving, so keep that in mind while watching it. All around, it was a very interesting story, and I would recommend this to everybody. Moving on to the next film, The Lodge. This movie is streaming on Hulu, and what this film is about, there's this family, a dad and his two kids, son and daughter. Their mom recently died, but the dad has a new girlfriend, and so for their Christmas vacation, he wants to take them all up to their family lodge so they can get to know his girlfriend a little bit better and have some family bonding. We learn like a really weird backstory about the girlfriend, and then just some weird things start to happen around the lodge. You think it could be paranormal, but it could not, so they do have that mystery going for it. Yeah, that's pretty much the premise of the film. I thought it was a pretty good story. It's more mysterious than scary. I'm finding that a lot more often now, is that horror movies are kind of shifting towards the mystery versus the actual scary jump scares, you know? Throughout the entire film, the script was hinting at two possible outcomes, and I was constantly wavering the two options, trying to think which will be the actual outcome, which I thought was interesting and a unique take on it, and it just does a really good job at showcasing both of the possibilities. I thought it was very well written. The one thing that I didn't like is that the story of their mom dying I felt was unnecessary. I don't think it really added anything to the film or to the characters. I almost think that they could have gotten away with the parents just getting a divorce and maybe the mom moves away or something. The idea of her dying was unnecessary, and you could take that out of the script. It did not add anything whatsoever. I can understand and respect the way that they decided to end this story, but I wanted to see more. So the way that they ended it left it open-ended, open for interpretation, and keeps the audience guessing what's going to happen. So again, I understand why they did that, but I want to see more. I want to see the end result. But again, all around, this was a very good film. It was attention grabbing the entire time. It was very entertaining. More of a mystery thriller than a horror, so I do recommend this one as well. I thought it was good. And we're moving into the last film, Session 9. This is streaming on Netflix. What this film is about is this group of guys is hired to go into an abandoned asylum and basically clean the place up. I think they're gonna like repurpose the building. But of course, since it's abandoned, there's like a lot of broken stuff and graffiti everywhere. So they're basically hired to come in and clean the place up and fix it. While they're doing that, there is a guy that is listening to old session tapes of a patient, so that kind of is just spread throughout, and we're hearing the story of a patient and watching the guys clean up the asylum, and that's pretty much it. I thought that they did a good job at telling the story. It just wasn't a very compelling story. I thought it was kind of boring. It just could not keep my attention whatsoever. There really is not a whole lot of action. I will admit though that the plot twist at the very end did come as a shock, because I felt like nothing happened in this film, so I didn't know how it was gonna end. I wasn't expecting it, so of course it came as a shock. With listening to the session tapes of the patient throughout the film, I kind of almost thought that was unnecessary. That story and the story of the guys cleaning the asylum, I felt were totally different, on different spectrums, had nothing to do with each other, they were not connected. So I feel like those session tapes should have just been taken out, and you could have still had the story. This film really wasn't the best. It was kind of suspenseful, but not really. Honestly, the last 30 minutes of the film is when it gets good, and then that's it. That's really all I wrote about this film, because there was nothing that happened. So I probably do not recommend this film at all. That is it. That is all of the films. It feels so good to be done. I'm so ready to move on and do something else. Watching 30 movies in the time frame that I did was so hard. I'm ready for some happiness. I'm ready for just a rom-com, something else. I do want to thank you guys so much for all of the support and for sticking with these videos. I know that they've been really long because I've been talking about multiple movies in one of these videos. Thank you guys so much for watching, and thank you for the support. Happy to be ending it the way that I am, and I hope you guys enjoyed watching the videos. This week, I would definitely say my favorite film was I See You, and my least favorite was probably I'm Just With You. Last week, my favorite was definitely Books of Blood, and my least favorite was definitely The Haunted. So just wanted to quickly add that in. Yes, again, thank you all for watching. Thank you for the support. If you guys like this video, go ahead and give it a big thumbs up. It would absolutely mean the world to me. And make sure to hit that subscribe button if you're not already and you want to see more content. If you guys want to recommend anything for me to watch, go ahead and leave that down in the comments down below, and I will watch it, good or bad. I like to watch it all. With that being said, I will see you guys in the next video. Live life, always laugh, and enjoy the journey. Bye. Yeah. Thank goodness.